passion, talent, development. NCAA hockey offers all that, and its players graduate at a 93% rate. Trevor Zegras.
And they score on the lacrosse move!
Jake Gensel.
Gensel banks it towards the goal. He scores!
Cale Makar.
Cale Makar, he scores!
Stars on campus before the NHL stage. Whether you're a fan or a player, nothing compares to college hockey.
My goodness gracious me!
Visit collegehockeyinc.com and follow at College Hockey.
Welcome to College Hockey Today. He is Brad Schlossman. I am Jayson Hajdu. Week 1 of Division I men's college hockey is in the books. It was a memorable one. As we expected, we will get into the league-by-league rundowns as normal. Schloss, welcome. Thanks for joining. We've got, before we look back, you and I both have some fun weekends ahead. I'm off to the Icebreaker this weekend at Arizona State. That'll be that's my first trip to Mullet Arena, so I'm excited about that. You're covering a bit of an almost home-and-home series this weekend that is a little unique.
Yeah, North Dakota St. Thomas, Friday night in Grand Forks, Sunday at the home of the Minnesota Wild. It is now called Grand Casino Arena. I think everyone listening to this probably knows it as the XL Energy Center. It has hosted Frozen Fours before, conference tournaments. Should be a good one. This is a future conference matchup. This is the last year that they're not playing in the same league. That's why they're doing the home and home. They had actually scheduled to play a series in Grand Forks this year, St. Thomas next year. And since they're coming into the league, they said, let's just scratch it and we each get one home game. St. Thomas this week moved into their brand new arena. So they are getting ready. They moved into the locker room there. And a pretty exciting time for St. Thomas hockey, coming off a big win over St. Cloud State as well. And now they move into the new rink. They got a big home and home. They always draw well. They've played Minnesota at the home of the Wild the last couple of years, and they had great crowds for that. So good one there. You're going to Tempe, Arizona.
First time.
New rink off your list.
Should be a great weekend. Quinnipiac, Notre Dame, and Alaska Fairbanks all taking place in that tournament. And obviously ASU will be a little snarly coming off of a couple of home losses on opening week. So looking forward to a good weekend in Tempe. One other news tidbit before we dive in this week. The NHL season got underway Tuesday night with a triple header. Nearly 250 college hockey alumni on opening night rosters. Now, some of those are salary cap related moves. There's a lot of maneuvering that goes on. Some guys will be sent down already today. Other guys will come up, including obviously college hockey guys, but nearly 250 alumni and rosters. And I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit. This wasn't in the rundown I sent you, but I haven't asked you your reaction on one particular college hockey alumni seemingly coming out of quasi-retirement. Jonathan Toews is back after a long absence, someone you have covered closely over the years. And by all accounts is back and ready to contribute as an NHL player.
Yeah. I just hope he stays healthy. That's my main concern. Just he's been through a lot. Hopefully he can stay well. I don't, he's missed some practices here. I don't think it's related to what kept him out for the last 2 years. Got a little bit dinged up in the preseason game. So hopefully he's back going soon. Obviously 3 Stanley Cups as a captain, and now he's coming back to play for his hometown team. That could be pretty special for both the people of Winnipeg and for Jonathan. So you always hope for these guys to stay healthy, and and if he does, he could be a real asset to that team, not only on the ice, but Winnipeg's been trying to push here. They've had some really good regular seasons, trying to make a run to get to the Stanley Cup final. And now you have a guy who walks in the locker room who knows everything it takes to do it. And that probably carries a lot of weight.
Before we get into our league by league rundown, we're going to try a new segment here in the spirit of college and school and learning. We're going to call this What Did We Learn? I'm going to ask Schloss for one key takeaway each weekend, something that emerged as a theme, and let's get right into it. What did we learn this weekend in college hockey?
Probably not a huge surprise, but my big takeaway, what we learned is that Gavin McKenna is going to be really good for college hockey. Those games, Penn State at Arizona State ends up being on NHL Network. I was watching social media, and you had lots of people who are tuning into this game who aren't just rabid college hockey fans. They wanted to watch. These fans were introduced to college hockey at its finest. You had a packed crowd. You had the students who were giving it to Gavin McKenna during the game, and you had Gavin McKenna who gave it right back to the students. Like, here he's 2 days into his college hockey career. He's already doing Forks Down and having fun with student sections, and it's like he's got this down pretty good, I thought. And just the attention that he's bringing to college hockey is something I think I've heard from a lot of different coaches, and they love it. They think this is such a great thing for their sport. And these college hockey coaches are so competitive all the time. We know that. It's kind of been interesting to see them step back and say, hey, this guy might torch us this year, but man, is this great for our game. He's and I thought the weekend one, just the way it all played out. The games were fantastic. I think people who are tuning in to watch Gavin McKenna saw how good all these other players are as well. Some people were introduced to Matt DeMarsico and his goal scoring ability. They were introduced some really good play from Arizona State as well. So yeah, my big takeaway was McKenna coming to college hockey is something that a lot of college hockey teams are going to end up benefiting from, because he's introducing this to a new audience.
Well, let's use that as a segue then to just jump right into the Big Ten, because I had that series obviously circled for our Big Ten recap, and what struck me is Gavin McKenna's talent is evident. He's a special player, but what struck me was this was not a one-man show. This was not often when you get an elite caliber player like that. The tendency for some of the supporting cast is, here's the puck, go do something great. Did not happen this weekend. Penn State got contributions up and down the lineup. 6-point weekend for Charlie Serrato, 4 points for Aiden Fink, 4 points for DeMarsico. JJ Weebush had a big weekend. And then you and I were texting about, that first power play line is absolutely sick. And then you got the goaltending. Penn State got the goaltending too. So this was a real team-wide sweep for Penn State.
Yeah, they definitely showed how offensive they could be, which I think we figured that would be the case. They are a team that generally produces a lot of offense.
Returning a lot of guys.
Charlie Serrato going undrafted his first year of draft eligibility. Oof. There's some teams that are probably kicking themselves for not taking him. Then now he's a second round pick, and they have a lot of weapons that can hurt you. What is Gavin McKenna, their fifth leading scorer right now after that great weekend? Yeah. So that just shows how many players Penn State has that can beat you.
McKenna's impact was pretty undeniable. 2 assists Friday, the game-winning goal late Saturday.
Yeah.
But I do want to also give a shout-out. We wondered about the goaltending. Kevin Radler answered the bell in the first weekend, stopping 80 of 85 shots.
Yeah, he's got a lot of potential. He was a pretty good goaltender at the junior level with Dubuque. He was drafted for a reason. He's a big modern goalie. So we'll see if he can build off that weekend, but a good start for Kevin Radler there for sure. And you're right, the first 2 assists that McKenna had were pretty big time plays. So he played really well. Just a lot of players did. And you know what? It wasn't Penn State rolling over Arizona State either. Arizona State was right there in both those games, led on this series finale, and I think they're probably upset they didn't win one of those.
Yep, no question. Okay, so let's get back into our regular regular order here. We'll start with the independents or jump back to the independents. I just wanted to touch on a few things. Ryan Johnson for Alaska Anchorage. He finished last season with a 10-game point streak. He did extend that to 11 games on Friday. That streak did come to an end Saturday, but shout out to Ryan Johnson for an 11-game point streak for the sophomore forward. I thought LIU, pretty good showing at BU in the season opener, losing 4-2, but out shooting the Terriers. 38-32, big game for Casey McDonald. He's an AIC transfer. He had a goal and 9 shots on goal for Long Island. And then, sorry, go ahead.
I said I didn't see that. 9 shots. Wow.
Yeah. And I think LIU outshot them 13-6 right off the hop in the first period. So better days ahead for LIU in terms of wins and losses. And then at Lindenwood, no upset of Wisco this time. The Badgers leave town with a pair of wins. Last season, those two teams split their series to open the season.
Yeah, my big takeaway, the one that raised my eyebrows, was just LIU's performance. You know, the Sharks lose their head coach in the offseason. Several players went over with Brett Riley to Ferris State. It was kind of late. Now all of a sudden, Brendan Riley comes in, and I think it just goes to show what we've been saying about how deep every team's getting with these, CHL players. And if you didn't get CHL players, it pushes the non-CHL players to other teams that would have been on some of those teams. So Long Island 13-6 in the first period. Maybe, BU thought it might be a little bit easier than it was. I didn't watch the game, but that can happen, especially first game of the season.
Young team as well.
Very young team. 19 NHL draft picks, which is astounding, but only one senior on that team. So really nice performance by Long Island, despite losing that. I think Long Island had a higher expected goals, 2.7 to 2.6. So that's got to be something that Brendan Riley's pretty excited about.
No question. Atlantic hockey, let's give a little stick tap to Canisius. They're off to a 2-0 start for the first time since 1998-99. Trevor Large's squad defeated 20th ranked Clarkson on Friday and then followed up Sunday with a win over St. Lawrence. I think those were both home wins. But another AIC transfer, Chase Clark, the goalie, with a big weekend in net for Canisius.
Yeah, there are some good players on the AIC team that are bounced around to different college hockey stops. Chase Clark can be a difference maker in that league this year for Canisius. He's already played in the league. He knows it. And boy, what a great start to that. Clarkson trying to find a little bit of offense after losing its top line. And that top line was really, really good. Last year, Martino was obviously a Hobie Baker finalist. Ryan Richardson had a big year, and Ellis Rickwood's at North Dakota now, and that's a lot of offense there. I think I saw Trey Taylor made the NHL too.
He did. He was on the Dallas Stars, opening night roster.
Trey Taylor opening, that's a lot of offense to lose. So it might be a little bit of a process for Clarkson to get some guys going. But yeah, great start for Canisius.
Well, let's talk a little CCHA. Bemidji State, heads up to Anchorage, gets a sweep of the Seawolves. Max Hildebrand, freshman goalie for the Beavers, a shutout in his first NCAA start on Saturday. Lake State, St. Thomas also won their season openers. Pretty good game, St. Thomas and St. Cloud. The Tommies went up 3-0. St. Cloud came back to tie it. The Tommies win it late on a major power play. Nathan Pilling with that goal, his first NCAA goal. Did you get to watch any of these games over the weekend?
I watched St. Thomas, St. Cloud last night, and boy, that first line is going to be a problem for some teams for St. Thomas. Lucas Wallen, the preseason player of the year in that league, is the real deal. Every time something was happening, you look and number 3's out on the ice. He's not overly flashy, but he just is a winning player. Everything he does is he's smart. He can shoot. He can pass. He wins puck battles. He was just phenomenal in that game. And then he's playing with a freshman, Lucas Van Vliet. He played 2 years at the NTDP. Last year, he decided to play a year in the USHL. And you know what? That's really had an impact on some guys. Playing that year of the USHL. St. Cloud State's game-tying goal was scored by Austin Bernovic. He's a guy who did that. He played at the program. He played a year at junior. He ripped it up. He went to St. Cloud, and I think he was their leading scorer last year and goal scorer. He had a huge year, and that's what Lucas Van Vliet did. And he's ready to go. He's on the top line, and he adds a lot of pace to that line. He can go through guys, and those two are going to do a lot of damage this year. You said Nathan Pilling. He was the one CHL player that St. Thomas grabbed. Big body. He did a lot of really good things too. He had a lot of shots on goal. I'm not sure what he ended up with, but I don't know if it was 9, but he made things happen. And Carson Musser was great. The first period, St. Thomas was on their heels, and Musser had to hold them in. St. Thomas got its footing, played really well after that. But yeah, I think the Van Vliet and Wallen are going to be two guys that you're going to hear a lot of this year.
Michigan Tech also with a nice weekend. They opened the year at Minnesota. They dropped the opener 6-3, but come back the next night to win 5-3 in a place that's incredibly difficult for visiting teams to win in. 18 newcomers. We talked about that last week for Michigan Tech. I watched an interview with Bill McCall yesterday, and he said something to the effect of, "I've never seen so many first goal pucks fished out of a net in one weekend." He did add that's a good problem to have, but 18 newcomers, they answered that test at Minnesota.
Yeah, really impressive. And not only did they win that game on Saturday night, shots were 33-13. The number of times that Minnesota is held to, a shot on goal total like that just does not really happen. The Gophers got out to a great start. And then, I think Bob Motzko said he felt like they let their foot off the gas pedal. And then when they tried to get back on the gas pedal, it wasn't there. And, but a great weekend for Michigan Tech. That was pretty, both of these teams were fairly young too. Minnesota lost 6 guys to NHL contracts early last year. So there's a few guys hurt. I think they're playing without 3 guys on Saturday night. I already saw they've got Axel Begley's a defenseman who's playing forward already. And yeah, 2 young teams, and maybe this is what you see with young talented teams, that there's some ups and downs, and they both went through it within the same game. But if you're Michigan Tech, you got to be coming out of that saying, I know I came out of it saying, oh boy, I put them too low in the league. That team's better than where I think I picked them 4th, maybe. I'm like, oh, I don't know, that team's probably better than that. So, whoops, I screwed that one up.
Here's Minnesota's next 3 weeks before they open Big Ten play. Home to Boston College, at North Dakota, home to Minnesota Duluth. So that's a young team we're going to learn a lot about in the weeks ahead. There's no let up in that schedule for sure. Okay, ECAC. Quinnipiac goes into Boston College and wins the opener. Matthew Mayich, Matthew Lansing each score their first career goals. The Bobcats are now 5-2-2 all time against BC.
They looked really good in that game as well. Shots in that game were 30-15, Quinnipiac. You could see some of the skill on that BU team, but overall, Quinnipiac was the better team in that game and deserved to win. They, like you said, they had some first career goals in that one as well. But that's Quinnipiac's going to be tough to beat in the ECAC. I think they're a step ahead of the rest of the league right now, and nothing I saw this weekend makes me think differently. That it's a pretty good team there. Dylan Silverstein didn't even see much work in net in that game.
Right. They did drop a 2-1 game in Providence on Sunday. That was just an exhibition game. They're off to Arizona State this weekend for the aforementioned icebreaker tournament. I also want to I want to congratulate Union. They opened the M&T Bank Center A 1-1 tie versus Army. Cameron Corpy stopped 25 of 26 shots, but college hockey's newest venue is up and running. Congratulations to the folks at Union. Exciting days ahead for that program.
Yeah.
Hockey East, UConn picked up a road split at Colorado College. Never easy to do. Lowell blanked Merrimack. Austin Elliott, a shutout in his college debut. And UMass swept Northern Michigan to open the season. What stood out for you?
Well, I think the big story here is UMass Lowell. Austin Elliott, I believe his record last year was 51-2. He just had an
unbelievable.
It's okay. He started in, I believe, Saskatoon. He ended up with the London Knights in the Ontario Hockey League, and London had a great team, no doubt about it. But when you go 51-2, you're doing something right. And he just was an anchor for that London team that went all the way and ended up winning the Memorial Cup as champions of the CHL. And I always think there's something about championship pedigree goalies. They have to play in big pressure games and crunch times. And I was really curious to see Austin Elliott's debut. And he comes in and first game, 17 save shutout, another win. This Lowell team, I was curious if they might be a little on the young side, but they've recruited extremely well. And they have a great crop of freshmen. And some of those freshmen came through for them this weekend, and most notably Austin Elliott. So
he started the year last year in Saskatoon 3-0. Then he went 32-1 in the regular season with London, and then in the playoffs went 16-1. The year before that with Saskatoon, he went 29-8-2. The year before that in Saskatoon, he went 25-6-3. This young man knows how to win hockey games, clearly.
Yes.
Great start for UMass. Yep.
Yeah, he's that's a big time weekend for win to start the season for Lowell. They will play on the road at Merrimack, and then UMass Lowell plays defending national champion Western Michigan. So Austin Elliott's going to get tested here. So we will see how that goes. But there's a lot of talent on that Lowell team.
Indeed. In the NCHC, Miami, a home sweep of Ferris State, and those were a couple of wins that were a long time coming for the Red Hawks.
Yeah, it was a year almost since their last win. I forgot the exact number of days now, but what was it, 26-game winless drought, and Miami finally gets that win. I watched some of that as well. There's no question to me watching that game that Miami's has upgraded its skill level for sure. Mateo Giampa looked really good. He was great at Canisius last year. But they had several players who just looked like factors. The other one that surprised me a little bit was Ilya Morozov. He is the youngest player in college hockey.
Mm-hmm.
He turned 17 in August. So, I mean, we're talking unbelievably young. And I thought he's a bigger body player, but I thought he was going to go through some more struggles just being that young. And Friday night, early on, it was like, okay, well, he's actually fitting in pretty well right now. And so I was really impressed with Morozov. You're going to see lots of scouts watching Miami games this year because he is draft eligible next year, and he will go in the draft. But if they can get some production out of a big centerman like Morozov, that would help out. But it does look like offensively this team has a lot more pop than it has.
We mentioned CC's split, with UConn earlier, and also Minnesota Duluth, pair of wins in Fairbanks, 11 points from the Shagabe Plant trio.
I was curious if they would keep those guys together. Remember, they started last year together, and Max Plant got hurt first weekend when they looked really good together. And that really set them back. He was out for a month and a half. And, it looks like they're going to put all those guys together, and that's going to be one of the more dynamic lines in college hockey for sure.
Any thoughts on the CC? We didn't really touch on it. The CC split with UConn.
Yeah, I watched a bit of the Friday game. I haven't watched Saturdays where UConn kind of came back strong. My impressions on Friday, CC definitely has guys that can attack from around the lineup. I felt like, fourth line guys were driving play, third line guys were. UConn in the opening game, the Muldowney line was really noted. Whenever they were on the ice, that's when UConn was pressuring CC. That obviously will be one of the best lines in college hockey this year. He'll be one of the best players in college hockey this year. Night two, it looked on the score sheet like UConn got a little more scoring from around the lineup. So that's a really good sign for UConn. Yeah. Ty Musilik must have played really well Saturday, only gave up one goal. He's obviously coming back now as the starter after an interesting year last year where he played a lot of games early, and then Callum Tongue came in out of nowhere, had an unbelievable finish, and all of a sudden, poof, he has an NHL deal. He's gone. Ty Musilik's back as the anchor of that team. So probably not a surprising split there. I think those are two pretty good teams.
Yeah, probably true. We don't talk a lot of exhibition games on here, but I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you about the game you covered, North Dakota's exhibition opener against Manitoba. I know Max Swanson in particular stood out to you.
Yeah, I think he's a guy that could have a breakout year. If you're looking for, he had a traditional freshman year where you saw some really good things, but there were also ups and downs with it. He was the USHL Player of the Year for a reason 2 years ago. He won the Clark Cup with Fargo, and he looks like a guy who can drive offense. That being said, it's Manitoba is not one of the stronger U Sports teams, and this is your annual Manitoba game where all the fans think the team is going to be world beaters because they scored 7 goals against Manitoba. But Max Swanson has just looked great all fall. He's playing on the top line with Cole Reshny and Jack Kernan, also a young line, but they're pretty dynamic and they can score. It's about to get a lot more difficult for that squad with St. Thomas coming into town, Minnesota the next weekend, then a trip up to North Country in Clarkson. So we'll find out more then. But if you're looking for a breakout guy, Max Swanson on the list.
Before I let you go, what are you working on this week ahead of that St. Thomas series? You had a busy week. I read your piece on Jasper Weatherby's new off-ice venture, former North Dakota player. You had a piece on a new locker room tradition at North Dakota. What do you have in the hopper right now?
Yeah, I'm working on a bigger piece on just the impact that the CHL is going to have. I kind of teased it last week. It's not out yet. I'm getting closer. But, the big, I kept the spreadsheet to just see how many guys came over, what percentage of this year's freshman class are there. And we're talking, a little over 200 players between the CHL and U Sports who would have been ineligible previously are in college hockey this year. That means there are 200 players who normally would be D1 got pushed out of D1 this year. That means the talent level has increased considerably this year. And a lot of coaches who I asked about this alluded to that. And as I said last week in my go-to quote, Frank Serratori, of course, he said, this is going to be a year like we've never seen. This is going to be the best college hockey that's ever been played. If you watched weekend one, I'm not going to, argue with Frank. I saw a lot of skill and not just from the top guys. It really stood out, that CC, for example, they went and got 6 NHL draft picks from the CHL, more than anyone else. And like there's noticeable skill on that team this weekend. So I think everyone benefited from it pretty much. There are some teams that may not have gotten the CHL players, but that means other players are trickling to their team. I think there are a few teams who had their recruiting class set. They really liked it and they just didn't budge. But I mean, the vast majority of teams have been impacted by this. And I'm going to try to get into more of that in the story, get some statistics. Where did the players come from? What was the strategy with some teams? Everyone is a little bit different. And my other maybe favorite quote in the story was from Greg Powers. There is a storyline up in Canada that a lot of these guys are going to go back to major junior at Christmas time because it's either, I don't know, academics are too hard or they're not playing enough or something like that. He said all our guys knew what they were getting into. He said, I can tell you that. But my favorite line is he said, it's not like these guys are aliens. And I feel like we're treating the CHL players like aliens because, and I've probably done it too.
I've gone to school before. Yes.
Yeah. These guys, like they're like USHL guys. Like it's not like the kids are all kind of the same. And I think we're treating them more like they're this experiment when I just really don't think it's that big of an experiment. It's new and it's certainly interesting to track how this plays out, but kids are kids. So kids are kids and athletes are athletes. Division I athletes are Division I athletes. And in my experience, whether it's academic expectations or competitive expectations, you lay those out to a Division I athlete, they're going to do everything they can to meet, if not exceed, those expectations. So I couldn't agree more. And I think we just think of like other sports, for example, that the pathway for other sports is through college. So virtually all these college football players, college basketball players, college soccer players, whatever sport they're playing, they all funnel through the NCAA. And so we're going to think that there's this one sport where there's this huge population of players that aren't capable of doing what all these other athletes are doing in every sport. Like of course there might be a player or two, like there's a player or two who goes back to the USHL every year, You see that at Christmas. I don't think we're going to see a big wave of players go back. These aren't, like Greg Powers said, it's not like these guys are aliens. They're just college hockey players. And
they're surrounded by every resource they could possibly want. If there are struggles, there are people in place to help.
That's true. That's absolutely true. But we'll see how the season goes. But check out that story. It should be interest to fans of all teams. And I tried to get a wide spectrum of thoughts from coaches and administrators.
All right, we'll watch for that piece. Thanks for joining us again this week. Week 1 is in the books, and week 2, I was going to plug some of the better non-conference matchups on the slate, but there are a ton of them as I was scrolling through, so it promises to be another great week of college hockey. Thanks for joining us, Schloss. Thank you, listeners, for joining us once again. Please enjoy the hockey.